Hi guys, it's Sophie. So today I'm going to be doing my Around the World Q&A. I called for Q&As in my last Around the World update, and some of you were sort of kind enough to send me some questions, things that you've been curious about. So yeah, this might be quite a long video because quite a lot of the questions are long in themselves and the answers might be quite long too. So it might be one to get yourself a little cup of tea and settle down with. Okay, so the first question I have is, do you have all of the books that you're going to read next year, or will you be doing a final haul? So no, I don't have all the books that I'm going to be reading, and I'm not going to be doing a final haul either. Basically, I decided I wanted to do this about 6 months ago, and I can't financially afford to buy like 190 books in 6 months. That's a lot of money. So no, I'm not going to have all of them. Instead, I'm going to be doing hauls throughout the year. So yeah, I will be picking books up every month around the world and then hauling them as I go. What I'll probably do at the end of the challenge is do a video in which I show every book that I've read, so that there's something in one place for anyone who wants to know. But no, I'm not going to be able to do that before the challenge, I'm afraid. The next question is that they know Antarctica isn't a country, but am I planning to read anything at all from that continent? No. I've had quite a few questions based on similar kind of questions to this. So XYZ place isn't a country, will you be reading from it? No, the only exception to that is Palestine, just for numbers based, because I want to do this in a year, and I want to have like a boundary to it. It's already a massive challenge, like it's already something that is going to be a lot of effort and it's going to be really hard. So no, I have to set myself limits somewhere, and whilst I completely understand it would be lovely to be able to read from all these other places as well, I'm not going to be able to do it. It's maybe something that I would do in future, like maybe when I'm like 30, like give me 5 years of like normal reading to recover, but yeah, for the time being it's just going to be the 194. The next question is, where are you starting with the challenge? I made a video a while ago, I think it was update 3, talking about my route around the world. I'm going to be starting in Portugal. I will probably be doing some kind of introduction to and basic kind of how you can track where I am when I do my kind of like starting around the world video. But yeah, so I'll be starting in Portugal and then going kind of through Europe. Next question is, are you going to allow yourself any books outside of the challenge? So whilst I'm kind of trying to be quite strict, the only exception I'm going to make is I run an in real life book club, and it's still fairly new. I think we've only done 4 or 5 months worth, and I really want to keep doing that. I think it's good for me, and to have some like structured like leisure activities in a weird way. So I'm going to keep doing that. We just read 1 book a month, and they're never like massive, really challenging books. They're just kind of like one like generally novel. So yeah, I think I should be able to keep up with that as well. It'll be 12 extra books in the year, which will take me over and above my 200, which is the most books I've ever read in 1 year. But I'm hopeful. I think it should be fine. We'll see. It might be, it might be that it is too much, but for the time being, that's what I'm going to try and do. Yeah, we'll have to kind of see how it goes. Next question is, will you be reading 1 book at a time? I expect I'm going to start that way, and I'll probably loosen that up as I go. Yeah, my plan is to read like country by country in 1 book at a time, but I expect what will happen is I have some books where I need to read something else alongside it, or it's a bit challenging or whatever, so I may end up having like 2 or 3 on a go. I'll try and still finish them in the order just for my own satisfaction, but yeah, so the plan is 1 at a go, but we'll see, it's not strict. Will you have deadlines for books? Kind of, but only because I'm reading so much that it's going to be really hard to get them into a year. So I'm basically going to have to finish a book every other day to achieve this. So yeah, whilst each book doesn't have like a specific date attached to it, I'm aware that I do have to be pretty on it with this. Hopefully that helps. The next question is, are you allowed to DNF books? I'd actually have to think about this. I think I am, but I have some rules in my DNFing which actually I haven't spoken about before or anything. So my normal DNFing rules is I have to read 50 pages of a book unless it's truly awful before I DNF it. Now for Around the World, what I'll do is I'll have my normal 50-page rule, as even if you don't like it, you've got to get to at least 50 pages, and unless it's absolute trite, I'm going to try and get to 100. The books are all like under 300 pages with a couple of exceptions, so for the most part that will mean I'm reading at least a third of the book, even if I don't want to finish it. just because I know this is challenging as it is, I don't want to end up not being able to do the challenge because I can't DNF one book. I could see that happening. I could see me reading one book I hate for like 3 weeks and then failing the whole challenge. So yeah, I'm gonna let myself DNF, but there are some like rules in that as well. Just so I'm not like picking it up and then just going every time, because that doesn't seem particularly fair. Someone's asked when will I leave the house. Good question. It's gonna be a really busy year reading wise. Yeah, we'll have to just kind of see. Like I recognise that this really is going to curtail the things I can do outside of this. Like the reality is this is a really big challenge, and I don't know whether I've like made it seem like it's easier for me than it is, but this will be really hard. So whilst that's quite like a flippant question, like at the moment I don't really know. I'm going to try and make sure I'm building in time for me to have other activities and other things I can do. I hope it's going to help that I'm reading books that are under 300 pages, so that they are books that I should be able to read like in a day or in a couple of days. We'll see. The other thing that I'm not sure how it's going to interact yet is I'm going to be commuting much further than I am at the moment. So that's going to cut into reading time as well, so that's something that I'll need to keep in mind. And it's not as though I can use audiobooks, because lots of these books are really hard to find in translation anyway, regardless of whether or not, like, it's really unlikely I'm going to find them on an audiobook. We'll see. We'll have to see how it goes. The next question was, what regions have you found the most difficult to find like at least one English translated book? That's easy. It's like Oceania, like barring like Australia and New Zealand, it's really hard to find things from like the island nations. Lots of the time the only book, I'm still like, I haven't got a lot of these yet, but a lot of them are like single books written by like the mayor of an island. Like they aren't fiction, they aren't like books that you would necessarily even know existed, but they are like the only thing that's been translated. But that's definitely the hardest thing to find at the moment. There are a couple of those that are like blue countries that I'm having to read non-fiction about, because either the only book that exists is like a biography of a mayor or whatever, but it's really long. So if it's like 600 pages, I could read it, but the reality is it's outside of my challenge limit and I'm probably not going to be able to. So there's a couple of those that will be non-fiction, but that's definitely been the one that's been the hardest to track stuff down for. The next question was, how did you go about choosing the books you are going to read? Did you try and make them representative of a country, or is it literally just anyone who's born in that country? Where possible, I've tried to have books where the setting is the country that the person is from. There are quite a few books, there's probably still some that are going to be in there that are like this, but quite a few books were people who were born in X place, moved to, say, the States or the UK and wrote a book about the UK or the States. Some of them, that's completely unavoidable, I promise you, but yeah, where it's kind of been possible, I've tried to have people who are like still in the country or are writing to some extent about the experience in the country, even if they're not writing, like the setting isn't that country, if that makes sense. So it might be about their experience in moving to that country or the differences in culture or whatever. But yeah, so I've tried to keep that in mind, but it literally just isn't possible for quite a few countries. How am I approaching 2019, given that I'm not going to have read all of the new releases in 2018? I think that's quite interesting. To be honest, I haven't thought too much about 2019 yet. I think what I'll probably do is I'm going to have probably some kind of like wish list where I'm going to put books that I'm interested in throughout the year, so that I keep them in mind, and then I'll purge that list at the end of 2018. I'm interested to see whether that makes my reading experience of those books better or worse, because I'll probably just be picking the ones I've heard the most, positive things about on BookTube and in reviews and stuff. But yeah, that's my current plan, and we'll see. Like, there might be some new releases that do get picked up as part of my book club, but I'm not kind of relying on that. I think it would be interesting to see whether, essentially by avoiding the hype of any of these books for a whole year, whether I'll end up with a better reading experience by only choosing the ones that have lasted the test of time throughout that year. I've been asked if I'm going to make a visual map showing where I am. Yeah, I will. There was one I made for my progress of trying to find the books. Those of you who haven't watched the older videos and are joining around the world a little bit later on to the process, you might not have seen that, but I will be doing another one once I'm actually reading, and this is the same software again, so that you can just log in and follow me if you want to. The next question was, sort of asking whether or not I could set up a Goodreads group. The other question I've had that's kind of similar to this is, would I start a podcast? To be honest, we're going to have to see how I'm doing. It's a lot, it's already a lot that I'm going to have to try and fit in, like reading and filming and thinking and putting together the videos and stuff, and I don't know that I can commit to either one of those two activities on top of everything else. It would be lovely, I completely agree that it would be really nice to be able to do those things, but I just don't know if I'm going to be able to. I'll keep them in mind, and if I find that I'm reading faster than I thought I would, or I've got a great desire to do either one of those two things, maybe they will exist, but I can't make any promises at this stage. The next question was, is there an order you have in terms of reading and buying books? Yes, everything has been nailed down to like the tiniest detail. I know every book I'm reading in order next year, and in one of my videos, again I think it was update 2 or 3, I went through what the books I'll be reading are in order. And again, buying, as I explained, I've not yet got all of the books, but I do actually have a buying spreadsheet that tells me what books I have to buy each month, so that I have everything I need ready for the next month. The next question is, what are you most nervous for and excited about for the challenge? At the moment I'm most nervous about the fact that there's a lot to do, and it's a bit hard to kind of explain like quite how much it will be. When I read 200 books, that was quite a lot of work, but at least I had kind of like poetry collections and graphic novels to rely on and fall on, and whilst that wasn't like a bulk of my reading, that would have been probably like another like 10-15 books that I would have had. I'm not going to be able to have, like, I hardly got any of that this year, so it's basically all like 200 novels, like plus 200 with the book club. And it does mean that I dedicate my free time. It means I probably won't be able to watch any TV next year or any films, and like I won't be able to play any video games, all of those kind of things. So I think the thing I'm most nervous for is not knowing at the moment how hard it's going to be, because it might be that actually because I've chosen these shorter books it's less intimidating than I think, and I can feel I'm making progress and kind of fly through it, but I think if they are a slog it can be really easy to feel super intimidated by what I've gotten myself into. So we'll see how my feelings are. I am really excited. Like this video I'm feeling like I'm a little bit nervous because I've been asked to do quite a few more things by people, and it's quite hard because I keep having to say no. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to do everything that I would really like to do in this, because I want to do this in a year, and whilst like I appreciate that the filming of this is obviously something for you guys, the challenge is for me, and I have to make sure I'm looking after why I'm doing this for myself first. So yeah, that's kind of that side of it. So I think in terms of what I'm most excited for, I can't wait to like see other sort of cultures and ways of writing, and explore places through books I'm never going to get the chance to go to in the whole of my life. That's one of the things about this. When I was a kid, this is a little bit of a tangent, when I was a kid I used to think that I would be able to travel to every country in the world. It was something I used to have this globe, this like a physical globe that had like a light inside it, right? And when I was a kid I used to like spin it and decide, like put my finger on the globe and be like, yeah, I'm gonna go there, like that's where I'm gonna go. And I used to think that I would be able to do that, and that would be something that would be like really achievable for me. And like as a grown-up I know that that's actually not achievable for me at all. I want to have a job and I want to be like settled in one place, and like my health stuff means that it's not really, I probably wouldn't be able to do the whole like grab a backpack and just go around a whole area, like that isn't really realistic for me. And yeah, so this for me is kind of like a little bit of a link back to my like 7 or 8 year old self, thinking I can go anywhere in the world. This is like, okay, well maybe you can't physically go to every one of these places, but you can read something from there. So yeah, I think that kind of experience is what I'm most excited for. Also like just finding stuff that I'm like, no one has heard about this. No, I have to tell everyone, because I remember that being how I felt when I was like first like getting into reading properly, was trying to tell like everyone, like all my friends, like wow, no one's heard of this. And with BookTube obviously everyone's like, yeah, we've all heard of this. So yeah, I think it's gonna be fun, like just reading some different stuff and finding myself getting excited for like all of the variety. Yeah, and a challenge as well. Like whilst I'm nervous, I really like to challenge myself. I like to be able to like know that I don't know, I've pushed myself and I'm doing better than I was before. So the next question I have is, in your continent catch-ups, will you be talking about the entire continent in general, or will you compare and contrast different parts of the continent, for example Eastern Europe, North Africa, East Asia, etc. I think it's probably just going to be the continent itself, purely because like at the moment, maybe by the end of the year I'll be up on it, but my like knowledge of these places isn't high enough that I feel like I could do separate places well enough and understand like enough about their history, etc. I'm doing it more as like an overview. I think it's going to be really fun, the continent catch-ups, but yeah, I just don't have enough knowledge of like world history and world events at the moment to feel comfortable really diving into like Eastern Europe, for example. Okay, so someone's asked about Thomas Bernhard. This is like literally, I want to like get that book and set it on fire because it's caused me so much more stress than like any other book I've got. I understand that lots of people are upset with that choice. I don't know how else to say it, but like I have to have limits on my challenge, and one of those things is that the thing that I'm looking at is where the person is born. Okay, I understand that realistically, okay, there's probably 20 books that are going to be on that list, and there might even be some, there probably are some as well that I've bought and hauled, which have a really similar situation in which the person has been born somewhere and has moved somewhere else to write. Now, especially when we get to the harder to find countries, a lot of the time the reason anything's even in English is because someone's done that. So part of this challenge is that is kind of going to be a part of it, and I've accepted that like from the beginning of the challenge. I understand that because the Netherlands is one that's easier to find, people are really annoyed that I haven't chosen someone that is like more relevant, but also just respect that these are my rules. It's not I don't know, I'm not, this is my challenge, this is my, like I've set myself certain aims and ambitions for that, and it completely fits with mine, and I can understand that you would have done it a different way, but you're not the one who's doing it. So yeah, I think to want to say that because it has really seemed to like make people quite annoyed at doing it, but I'm keeping him, partly because I want to read the book and partly because I bought it, but the kind of main reason is actually it's going to happen with a lot of countries, and I don't want to have to feel like I have to throw away books that I bought and buy another one just because someone wants me to. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I have to have some limits. I spoke about that at the beginning. There has to be some limits, and I understand that people aren't always going to be happy with where all these lines are drawn, but that's how it is. That, you know, it has to have some kind of containment, or else I'd literally be having to read like a book from every person in the world. You know what I mean? Like if it's like, oh, are you going to read I don't know, like from a certain like ethnicity in a certain country, or maybe there's lots of conflict between them. I completely understand it would be really informative to read from both, but that there's not enough time in my life to be able to do it. And then I was asked about there's a blogger who's done a similar challenge to this, who's found sort of books from all the countries. Now I have some countries I call blue countries, which are ones that I have tried really hard to find but can't. My blue countries, I think there's 6 of them. I'm going to be reading non-fiction about that country rather than fiction or non-fiction by an author from that country. Now the blue countries are actually taking into consideration the blog, so I've gone on her blog and tried to see if I can source the same thing she has, and the blue countries are ones that she has had someone personally translate for her, so she has had someone who's produced a book for her specifically, and like, or that she's had one sent through her own personal connections, and she's said that she can't share any of the details for any of those. So yeah, I'm not going to be able to get those blue books unless someone publishes something translated from those countries whilst I'm doing the challenge. But for the time being, it is what it is. I was asked what would I do if I managed to finish the project ahead of the year finishing. Would I be then looking to read more international fiction, non-fiction, or take a break? To be honest, I think it's really unlikely that I'm going to read all the books before the end of the year. I, at this point, think it might take me longer than a year. But I'm going to do my damnedest. If for some reason I'm wrong and like I manage to like absorb books through my fingertips or something, then I would probably just read what I wanted to from that year. Yeah, as I say, you could easily make a project. You could easily do this for your whole life. Like you could literally try and read like people from different places for the entirety of their life and probably still not be done. So whilst I like the idea of trying to add more in, I don't think I'm going to be able to do that much of it. So if I did finish it before, I would just pick up whatever I wanted. And the next question is, if this was a success, would I consider a different, like the same project again but with non-fiction, or even if it was on a smaller scale? Maybe, but not for a long time. I think if I did it for non-fiction, I'd want to do non-fiction just about the country, not with a person of that you know, who's born in that country, because even if there is something in fiction that most of the time, for some of them, it might even just be like a short story that someone self-published. Non-fiction would be, I think, basically impossible. I don't think you would be able to do it with non-fiction without paying people to translate for you. But yeah, I think that would be something that potentially I might be interested in doing. Again, give me till I'm like 30, but non-fiction about those countries I think would be, again, a really valuable sort of venture. And again, I think the only thing to be wary of that would be then, how is the person who's writing, how is their opinion skewed on that country? But yeah, I think that's interesting. I was asked again about the DNFing, where I kind of forced myself to read it. Hopefully I've kind of answered that one. Someone else asked me where I was going to start and what order. So as I mentioned, I'll be doing Europe and then like down through Asia, around Oceania, bottom of Africa, up through Africa, across to the Caribbean, South America, North America, Canada, and then back to the UK. But they also asked, I just managed to delete it, they also asked how many countries have I already read from around the world. I don't know, actually I haven't sat down and calculated that. I would have thought it's probably like 50 or 60, but no more than that. I've read quite a lot of European countries and like dotted around the more westernised countries in the Middle East and in Asia and Africa. A lot of ex-colonies for Africa, but yeah, I wouldn't have thought it was more than like 60, and that being fairly optimistic. And the last question is, what are you going to do if you want to read more books from the author in that year? I'm just not going to have time to read multiple books from one author or from one country in the year. If I really like them, I'll put them on my TBR. Yeah, so that is everything that I wanted to talk about and everything that you guys had asked. I'm really sorry if I've come across like combative on any of these questions at all, and I'm really not having a go at anyone or anyone who's asked any of these questions. It's just been quite hard because of the fact that I'm being asked to do a lot of things and I can't. It's not that I wouldn't or that I wouldn't want to, but I literally can't. And I appreciate that you guys as viewers would like to see certain things, but it just isn't going to be possible for me to do all of it. And I feel I need to be honest about that, and rather than saying, oh yeah, that's a really good idea, I'll try and do that, unless like this was my full-time job, I just won't be able to do it. So yeah, hopefully that's been interesting to hear a little bit about it, and yeah, it's been really lovely to like kind of see what you guys are interested in knowing as well about it, because like, especially for those, I think, because quite a few people have said they're planning on doing it as well over longer periods of time, and I might sort of at the end of the challenge, when I know what I'm talking about, but I might do a video talking about like how to do something similar if you want to. I think from the off, a year is not long enough, but I'm going to do it in a year because I've got to set myself. It's really not long enough, and also I think you are going to need to be willing to spend a lot of money. That's the other thing I found, is that because these books are really hard to find, like I'm often paying like £40 for a single paperback, just because they're really hard to track down. So it's a really expensive venture, unless you have like a stellar library system. My library just isn't like there's not going to be, I get some, but it's going to be hard to try and find the stuff that there's like 4 copies of in the world or whatever. So yeah, those are 2 things I'd say to keep in mind. I think if you're trying to do Europe, at least in English translated, if you're trying to do Europe or the Americas, you'd be absolutely fine, you wouldn't have any issue. It's more kind of like tiny nations that are hard to pull together and find. So yes, what do you think, Foster? I will chat to you guys soon in my next video. Hopefully that has been of some use, and yeah, look after yourselves until then. Bye!